Howdy folks, welcome back to Duke Fraser Productions. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Pedersoli's 1874 Sharps model. Stay tuned. Spinning it. That black powder smoke don't taste so good. Alright, so this particular model that I've got here, this Pedersoli Sharps, is actually what's known as the Cabela's Hunter. So this one is specifically imported and sold by Cabela's. At least I think they still sell them. And this particular model has a little bit shorter barrel. It's not quite as long. I think it's 30 inches. And it has the typical double set triggers, which I think pretty much all of the 74 model Sharps from Pedersoli have that. This one has a pistol grip stock on it, which I really love this. It makes for really good shooting. You can really hold the gun tight and get fairly decent accuracy with that. It also has a shotgun style butt plate, which is really nice. They do make models that have the crescent or the military style butt plates, but I really like this shotgun style on here. Now, if you're not familiar, a Sharps rifle is what's known as a falling block action. So right up here, there is a big square block. And the reason it's called a falling block is because when you push down the lever, the block falls in the receiver, which opens up and exposes the chamber. So loading this is very straightforward. What you do is you drop the loading lever, and then you push a bullet in from the back, close it up, bring the gun back to full cock, and you're ready to fire. Now this particular model, I've upgraded the rear sight on. So when it came in, it had the typical little sight. You lift it up, you moved a little slider bar, and that adjusted your elevation. That didn't let you get out past much 200 yards because that thing is so tight. I had it set to where I get 200 yards and I couldn't get it to go any higher. So I upgraded it to a sight that come off the Billy Dixon model. I actually ordered this sight from Cimarron Arms. And so this little ladder sight will let you get out to 800. Now that's probably pushing it with this gun with the Black Hills Cowboy smokeless loads that we shoot in it. But as you'll see here in the video, we take it out to 400 yards and it does fairly well at that distance. We are not going to take this and put it on paper. Just because I've gotten the barrel gummed up and it doesn't shoot as accurately as it used to. But it still will go out and it'll reach out and touch a silhouette sized target at 400 yards. And so that's what we're going to do today is we're going to take it out, we're going to shoot it a little bit longer distance, and then I'll do some offhand shooting, which I'm going to tell you right now, I'm no good at offhand. So without further ado, let's go over the range and see how it does.
he shot, he missed 3. And the others, you could hear it. Bink.
Yeah, I could hear him. Oh. Oh. Got to bring the sights down a little bit. Jesus.
Now who would the devil have to do? Oh, there, I got it. You got this.
Yeah, they're little nail drivers, that's for sure.
Damn it.
Didn't you have that problem too? At 1.2? No. That's no cute.
So on these guns with the double set triggers on them, how this works, and let me check, make sure there's nothing in there. And if you pull the hammer back to half cock, you can test your triggers without worrying about it going off the set trigger. So this rear trigger is what's known as a set trigger. I don't know how well you'll see that, but when you pull that, it'll click. That locks in the front trigger. So that makes this a hair trigger. So all you got to do is just barely touch that, and it'll go off. It'll strike the sear, and the hammer will fall. Now on this model, you do not need to use that set trigger. You can bring her back to full cock, and you can pull that front trigger by itself. It will fire. This front trigger by itself is much, much heavier. Now you can adjust how sensitive this trigger is with a little screw that's located right here between the two triggers. And so you screw that, I believe you screw it in, it makes the tension light. If you screw it out, it makes the tension tight. And so I've got this set for a fairly light trigger because when I'm trying to target shoot, I really like the lighter trigger on it. You don't flinch near as much. And so, as I said, you set that back trigger, and it does not take much force to turn this off. Now when you first get this gun, you're going to want to test that trigger tension. Because when I first got it, I did not test that. I went out to the range, I set the set trigger, and I just did not even feel my finger touch the front trigger, and the gun went off. Fortunately, I was pointed down range when that happened. But I did make adjustments, and I got it set to where I just absolutely love the tension that's on here now. Doesn't take a whole lot to set it off, but it's not going to go off on its own. Now this gun weighs in at 10 pounds. And like I said, this is the Hunter model. This is a lighter model. They do make heavier ones, target models with heavier barrels and longer barrels on them. And when I was buying this one, they had one of those target models at the Cabela store. But when I picked it up, it just did not balance right. This one is almost perfectly balanced. And when you pick it up, it's very easy to hold it on target. Although it's heavy, you're not going to hold it there for very long. But this one, it's a lot easier to hold on target, and it shoots very, very well. Now, one thing I'm going to add here real quick, if you buy one of these Pedersoli made guns, you don't want to be putting hot ammunition through it. In fact, you don't want to put very hot ammunition through any Sharps rifle. That's because that falling block action isn't exactly the strongest action out there. And it even says on the barrels of these guns, black powder cartridge only. So you're going to want to shoot a low pressure cartridge through it. Now, I've shot Black Hill smokeless ammo, but it's the cowboy load, so it's very light. It stays under about 18,000 pressure. Cups, PSI, I think they're just about the same. So Black Hill's cowboy ammo is a really good one, and this gun really likes that ammo. Now, right out of the box, I took this thing out, and I shot it at the range, and I took it at 100 yards, and with the open sights, I was able to shoot a 1-inch group at 100 yards. And then I tried shooting some black powder loads through it, and those things gummed up the barrel, and I still haven't got it quite clean yet because it's not shooting as accurate as it did when I first got it. But these guns will shoot fairly decent. You just got to use the right kind of ammunition in it. So one thing I'll show you here on this Sharps rifle, as I try not to hit anything on it, but if you need to disassemble it to clean, it's a fairly simple process. So right over here you got this weird little finger dingus thing sticking out, and that's what holds your block in. So what you do is there's a little detent right here. You will push that down, which will allow that finger dingus to swing out. And then you just pull that straight out. Whoops. Try not to drop it off the table here. You pull that straight out there. And that disengages the lever from the block. And that'll let you pull the block out. Now this piece right here, this is your extractor. Now I've seen on some videos of original Sharps where you open that block and this thing just kicks that round out. On this Pedersoli, it doesn't do that. You got to push down on the lever a little bit to get the round to come out of it. Now when you're putting this thing back together, this can get very aggravating very fast. Because you got to get this silly thing, this extractor lined up just right to get it to go back into the gun. But once you get it in there, it'll stay put. So once you get the block back up in there, all you got to do is slide the retainer pin in, and this can be a little bit challenging because it doesn't always like to go back in. Once it goes, it'll go. So you slide it in to where it bottoms out. You push it back up, and then you should be able to slide it over that detent, but the detent sticks out a little bit far, so you got to push that in. Then you slide that dingus back in, and then everything's locked up and back in place like it should be. So when you're cleaning this gun, you can drop that breech block out, and then you can get at the barrel and clean the barrel. And that makes it easier for cleaning from the rear. So overall, this gun is a very simple design and a very effective design, and I just absolutely love a good Sharps rifle. Alright folks, so that's going to take care of it for the video today on the Pedersoli Sharps. If you liked what you've seen on the channel thus far, be sure to hit that subscribe button down there below. Don't forget to check us out over in the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon. Maybe think about going to the Patreon page, give us something to help keep the channel going. And remember, stay tuned and keep your powder dry.